I've often found myself wondering, even now, years later, what if some warnings aren't for you at all? What if their true recipient is long gone? What if they're meant for someone else entirely? Someone who isn't even present anymore, but whose presence still lingers in the quiet corners of a home. Or worse still, what if these signals, these subtle cries for attention, are for you, but they're not about what you initially think? Not a simple malfunction. We learned that hard lesson. Slowly. Insistently. Through the relentless, patterned chirps of a smoke detector that refused to be silenced, even when replaced. It was a truly good house, we genuinely believed. A quiet, tree-lined street in the suburbs, with excellent schools nearby for our daughter, Lily. The paint was a little chipped here and there, the garden a bit wild and overgrown, but it possessed a certain rustic charm. It had character, we told ourselves. Our daughter, Lily, immediately fell in love with the expansive attic room. She declared it her secret hideout within minutes of stepping inside. That entire first week was a whirlwind of unpacked boxes, makeshift meals, and endless takeout containers. Just the usual, chaotic blur of a new home. Then, late one quiet evening, as we finally collapsed onto the sofa after a day of unpacking, it began. A sharp, singular sound. A distinct, piercing chirp. It seemed to emanate directly from the hallway, just outside our master bedroom door. Low battery, I immediately thought. An old house, naturally, would have old, decaying smoke detectors in need of replacement. I made a mental note right then to purchase new ones the very next day. Honestly, I didn't give it a second thought beyond that initial inconvenience. But it wasn't merely a one-off occurrence. It chirped again, with the same distinct sound, the very next night. And then, unsettlingly, the night after that. It wasn't a constant, blaring alarm, thankfully. Just intermittently. And always, from that specific spot in the hallway, outside Lily's room. My husband, David, noticed it too. One morning, over coffee, he mentioned it was starting to sound less random. More like a sequence. A short burst of chirps. Then a brief pause. Another burst. Then a noticeably longer pause. Almost like a deliberate, coded message if you allowed yourself to think it. I finally got around to it. I purchased a whole new set of detectors, the latest models. I was determined to eliminate the problem once and for all. The old ones were, as expected, genuinely ancient. Their plastic casings were brittle and discolored, their batteries long dead and corroded. But the chirping persisted. Unwavering. Still emanating from the exact same spot. The hall right outside Lily's room. A new, white detector now in place. It clearly wasn't a low battery anymore. It felt intentional. And then, as I stood there, I saw it. A faint, rectangular mark on the plaster, precisely where the old detector had been mounted. We attempted to reassure ourselves. We attributed the sounds to the house settling, or old pipes expanding, perhaps a draft causing some strange resonance. The mark on the wall? Just remnants of previous repairs, we decided. Patchwork from a long ago leak, or maybe where an old fixture had been removed. David even spent an entire afternoon tracing wires. He hypothesized that perhaps an old, forgotten intercom system was shorting out somewhere within the walls. We were desperately searching for logical, mundane explanations. We had to be. It was, after all, just a house. A very old, slightly quirky house. But the chirping, it simply refused to be random. It was undeniably consistent, 3 distinct short chirps, followed by one long one. Then a pause. Then it repeated. David found no loose wires. No hidden intercoms, no faulty electrical conduits. Nothing within the wall cavity that could produce such a sound. And the mark on the wall, it wasn't just simple patching. It felt more substantial, more intentional. As if something specific had once been removed from that exact spot. As if a small, significant object had once been carefully fastened there. Something that held a purpose. Something that was now mysteriously gone. Night began to feel profoundly different. The house, which had once felt welcoming and full of possibility, now seemed vast, echoing, and strangely empty. Lily, thankfully, seemed utterly undisturbed by the sound. She slept peacefully in her room, or so we desperately hoped each night. We were truly alone in this. There was no one we could plausibly call about phantom chirps or invisible, unsettling marks on the plaster. Just the two of us, then. And the house. And the relentless, increasingly unsettling rhythm that permeated the quiet hours of darkness. Then, late one particularly still night, the pattern abruptly shifted. The chirps grew frantic, faster, more urgent. Almost desperate, it seemed. And beneath that escalating urgency, a new sound emerged. A faint, persistent scraping. It was distinctly coming from inside the wall. It sounded precisely like something was struggling. Like something was desperately trying to get out. Or, perhaps even worse, trying to get in. Right there. Next to Lily's room. A sound no normal house should ever make. A sound that spoke of a living, struggling presence. We had no choice. We tore into that wall. Carefully, yes, but with a desperate, frantic energy, driven by pure fear. Flashlights cut through the profound darkness within the void. We expected wires, or maybe rats, or anything tangible to explain it. But there was absolutely nothing. Just empty space. And the faint, rhythmic chirping now seemed to resonate from everywhere at once. As if the very house itself was breathing the pattern. Humming that unsettling message from its ancient, unseen bones. A living, breathing warning. It was then, standing there staring into the empty wall, that a memory surfaced. A snippet of a conversation with the real estate agent. She had mentioned the previous owners. An elderly couple, she'd said. Very private people. Quite reclusive in their later years. They had lived in this house for nearly 60 years. They never truly left the property, not really. Especially the wife, in her declining health. She had been gravely ill, for a very long time. Her devoted husband had cared for her until, one day, he simply couldn't anymore. He passed first. The mark on the wall. The insistent, rhythmic pattern. 3 short, 1 long. My husband, David, his voice a strained whisper in the quiet house, recognized it. He looked it up on his phone, his fingers trembling slightly. It was Morse code. The letter V. V as in Victor. Not a low battery signal. Not a warning for fire. It was a desperate, unending plea. For V. Or perhaps V for victim. Or V for vigil. Some warnings aren't about what you think they are. They're about who is still listening. And who is still trapped within these walls. And perhaps who is next to join them.